sure I keep myself protected because I can't be a hypocrite telling y'all and I don't do it myself. So I may or may not have partook in the devil's lettuce, and now I have videos to share with you guys. Buckle up, buttercup. It's finna get spooky. Y'all don't mind me. As you can see, I done got cozy. I got my blanket. I got my favorite drink. I might just warm up this pizza I was eating earlier. And we gonna get into these stories. Welcome if you're new here, and if you're not, welcome back to the Mystic Muse. Here we peel back the veil between the seen and the unseen. I'm your host, Luna, and I want to share these 5 spooky stories that I think you guys would like. So let's get into it. Be gone, demon. Yeah. The priest be having holy water. I be having Florida water. Yeah. Now, these aren't your average ghost stories. We're talking about love spells gone wrong, crazy voodoo haircuts, life-saving calls from unknown numbers, and in-laws with sinister secrets.
Love spells gone wrong, story time. So Jose and Maria have been married for over 15 years. They own a business, a home, they have 2 children, and Maria is currently pregnant with their 3rd child. Now, because Maria is put on bed rest during this pregnancy, she can no longer go to work. So that means that her and Jose have to hire a new secretary to pull her weight. Now, Susie is 24, straight out of college, very beautiful and intelligent, so she applies for the job and she gets it. But Jose and Susie are talking, they're flirting, and within a couple of weeks, they're in a full-blown affair. But his mother warns him, you know you have a family at home, you can't be doing this. Jose tells his mom, you just take care of my wife and baby while I'm at work. I got this. I pay the bills. So 2 months later, Jose and Susie are still going strong in their affair when one day Susie rolls over and says, hey, guess what? You're going to be a daddy again. I'm pregnant. His eyes were big as quarters because he knew if anyone found out about this woman or baby, he would lose everything, including his family. So Jose tries to talk Susie into having an abortion, but she says absolutely not. We intentionally created this child and I'm going to have it. He knew he could not piss Susie off or she could destroy his life in many ways. So he gets the idea to tell his family that he is stressed out at work, bogged down and depressed, and the best thing they can do is pack up and leave the country and just start over fresh. So to keep Susie at bay, Jose lies to her and says, look, I love you, and as soon as you have this baby, I'm gonna leave my wife and kids and we're gonna be together. Susie's in shock. She can't believe that he's ready to make that kind of a commitment. The only problem was he was lying to her, and within a few weeks when his wife had her baby, he packs his family up and moves them to America, leaving a pregnant Susie behind. When they left, Susie is calling Jose's phone, leaving voicemails, texting, blowing him up like, where the hell are you? So Susie tells her mom that Jose has ghosted her, and her mom informs her that Jose has moved his family to America. They're gone. She loses it. She starts blowing his phone up, calling and texting, you abandoned us. I'm gonna tell everyone. He just keeps lying. He says, wait, I did this for us. As soon as I get established and get more money, I'm gonna leave her and then bring you and the baby here and we'll be a family. 6 more months goes by. She's had the baby and Jose has still not sent for her. He just keeps stringing her along. Well, she gets mad and says, look, Jose, if you don't get your ass on a plane and come get us, I'm coming to you. Do you understand? I can't be without you. He said, no, but I hope you understand. I don't want nothing to do with you or your bastard. Don't contact me again. So at this point, Susie is stressing. She has no income, no transportation, no family support, no help from Jose. She doesn't know how she's going to take care of this child. So she went to a local village healer to try to get some help. Susie told the healer, I need a love spell, the strongest one you got. And the healer responded, are you sure you can afford this? Because this is going to cost a lot more than money. Susie got on her knees and said, I don't care. I will pay whatever price it costs. Just make this man come back to me. The healer said, okay, but you understand the price for this, and Susie cut him off. I don't care what the price is. Just do it. The healer said, take this herb, grind it up real fine, add some blood from your menstrual cycle, cut some hair from your head and his, grind it all up real fine, and then put it in his food. He must eat this before or after Schmegs, doesn't matter which, but make sure he eats it all. Understand, once you do this, that man is not going to leave you alone. She said, well, good, that's what I want. Susie finds out through the grapevine that Jose is coming back to their country just for a couple of days to get the rest of his family's belongings and to tie up some loose ends, and she knows that's when she's gonna have to do it. On the day that he returns, Susie put on her sexiest outfit and goes to the airport, and as soon as Jose stepped off that plane, Susie bumped into him and said, hey, stranger. Jose is like, oh, hey. She said, it's okay, I'm not mad anymore. I've gotten over all that. And Jose was dumb enough to fall for it. He thought, wow, I can hook up with her tonight and nobody would ever know and just go get my family stuff tomorrow. And of course, just like we all predicted, he wound up in a hotel room making love to Susie all night. While he was asleep, Susie cut his hair, her hair, and she even took a patch of the baby's hair to make sure it was stronger. She put that herb and her blood in it, mixed it up, and served him breakfast. Jose was so drained from the night before that he ate up every single morsel of that meal. He didn't miss a crumb, and Susie just stood there smiling because she knew she was about to get what she wanted. Susie tries to cuddle with Jose, and that's when he jumps up. I have to go. I made a mistake. We can't do this again. She said, okay, have a nice day. She wasn't mad or worried at all because she knew he was coming back to her. So they leave the hotel, and then Susie sits by the phone waiting on his call, just praying that the spell worked. So 2 days later, Jose calls her and says, hey, I've left my wife and kids. You're all I think about. I want you. I need you. I'm coming back to you. She said, well, good, hurry. Well, later that day, Jose called her 3 more times back to back, but she missed the first 2 calls, and when she answered the 3rd time, he was screaming at her, where the hell are you? Who are you with? Are you cheating on me? You better not be with another man. Why didn't you answer the phone? Susie thought, that's really weird. He's never been jealous over me before, so it must be a side effect of the spell. That's good because it means the spell is working. But when he arrived 2 days later, Jose's behavior was out of control. He grabbed her by her arm and started screaming, where were you? Who are you with? Why didn't you answer the phone? Then his whole mood changes. He apologizes to her. He says, I'm so sorry. I love you and the baby. I would never hurt you. Please, I want y'all to come live with me. When they get in the hotel room, Susie gives the baby a bath, and then she lays on the bed and starts playing with the baby, and then Jose looks over and says, you love that baby more than me, don't you? You spend too much time with him. You love him too much. You're going to choose him over me. When he gets older, you're going to marry him and be with him, aren't you? Susie said, no, what are you talking about? He's our baby. We created him. We should both love him the same. This man is losing it because of that spell. All he can think about is Susie cheating on him or leaving him. Jose picked the baby up and said, you have to choose now, either me or the baby. Susie said, why? He's our baby. He said, choose. She said, I'll always choose you over everyone. He said, then you won't mind me doing this. And then he opened the balcony sliding door, took the baby out and held him over the balcony. She said, no, wait, what are you doing? That's our baby. He said, but you can't love him and me, so we have to get rid of him. And then he dropped him. Before she could even grasp what was going on, Jose lunged at her, put his hands around her neck, and began choking her until she passed out. When Susie finally came to, she felt the cold wind blowing through her hair. She felt Jose's arms wrapped tightly around her, and that's when she heard him say, Susie, I love you, only you, forever. And then she realized they were falling from the hotel balcony.
Put your finger down if you went to get a haircut last year and instead maybe you got a voodoo curse put on you. I recorded this video so many times a year ago, and I had drafts that I don't have anymore, but I never posted it because I was genuinely terrified because of the just stupid crazy shit that happened, that I was like, if I talk about it, will they come after me? I don't know, but I'm gonna talk about it now because it's been a year and I just remembered that the drafts are gone, and I want people to know, but I won't say where it is unless you guys tell me that I should. But my parents told me at the time that like they could sue me for defamation if I say what happened. So please advise me. So what happened is I've only ever had my hair cut by my mom in my kitchen, and I wanted to get a real haircut because my mom hasn't been a practicing cosmetologist in over like 2 decades. And so my friend sent me this business TikTok and was like, here's an all-inclusive place that seems really friendly and cool for a first haircut. And I was like, awesome, this place looks great. And they're very well known on TikTok and made fun of for certain thing that they do about their all-inclusiveness, okay? They cater specifically to the queer community. And I went, and it was great. Like my first appointment was great. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is really cool. This is really cool. And then I get home and I look at it, because when the haircut was finished, they just had me pay and leave. I like didn't really get a chance to like put my fingers through it and see if it was right. And there were some things that were wrong about it. And so I messaged them and I was like, hey, can we get a touch up? And they were like, sure. And I go in and they spend like the entire time being like, I actually did this right. Like you're wrong, but we'll alter it for you, which was fine, I guess. But when I went back, the normal eclectic stuff that they had before, like all the picture frames and stuff up on the wall, was still there, but they had added some Halloween decorations. And when I asked them, hey, did you decorate for Halloween 5 months early? Because it was almost like a year ago today. It was like June 10th, July 10th, I think. And they were like, no. And that's all we talked about it. But when I walked in the room, there was a giant sign that says, abandon hope, all ye who enter. And there was a ring of salt around my chair, and there was salt in front of the mirror in front of me and on the countertop in front of me. And there was a mirror behind me that had a giant pentagram covering the entirety of it. There was a pentagram on the floor in front of me, 3 pentagrams in the corner of the mirror in front of me. And next to that line of salt on the countertop was some candles and voodoo doll looking things. there's also a skeleton. I think the skeleton may have been there during the first appointment. I think that might have just been part of their decor, but it ties in, so I really don't know. But so like the vibe when I walked into the fix appointment was just, it was just hate. It was just hate, and I felt so uncomfortable. And then halfway through the appointment, they left to go to the bathroom. Now, in the first appointment, they left to go to the bathroom as soon as I got there, which I thought was odd that they hadn't gone already. But you know, I don't care. You do your thing. But the second appointment was 10 minutes long, so I don't know why they had to leave halfway through, except for the fact that when they left, the music switched from being like pop music or elevator music to the kind of music you would hear in a haunted house, where it's like whisper chanting in a different language. Yeah, and then it went back to normal as soon as they came back in the room. And they were cutting my hair really quickly the whole time, and so quickly they snagged the scissors on my hair for a second and like pulled my hair really hard. And then when they finished, they literally go, all right, you're done, you gotta go, I've got a client coming, and like walk me out the door and close it behind me. And I essentially immediately start bawling, and I call my friend and I'm like, what the fuck? And I call my dad and I'm like, I'm coming home, like I'm sorry it's taking so long, but I need to have a breakdown first. And it's weird because I didn't think that they weren't threatening me with like scissors or something like that, but they are holding scissors next to my face, and there's all this threatening stuff around and the threatening music. And I just felt very uncomfortable and unsafe the entire time that I was there for that second appointment. And I wanted to post a review somewhere about it and be like, hey, this place is not chill. But my parents told me that they could sue me for defamation, so I have not said anything about it, because if they are gonna put a voodoo hex on me or something, who's gonna stop them from doing normal crazy stuff? And I don't really believe in like hexes or anything like that, but that's not the point though. That's not the point. The point is that their intention is bad, and that scares me. So if you guys want to know where it was, or if you have any guesses on where it was, let me know. But yeah. Also, if you want to see the haircut, the haircut is not like the end of the world, but it was not at all what I was going for. And I was more crying because I was freaked the fuck out than that the haircut was terrible, which it was bad. It was very uneven and very... Anyway, let me know what you think.
So I have a spooky story for you, and it features a young girl and her babysitter. Now, this young girl's like 5 years old, we'll say preschool age, and her babysitter is right around high school age. Every day at around 3 p.m., the babysitter goes to pick up the preschooler. They walk home, which is about a half-a-mile walk. Now, they can take a car or a taxi, but usually the weather's pretty nice, so the two of them make a practice of it. And every day that they get home, the babysitter will go in, make the snack for the preschooler, turn on the cartoons, and then she'll start on her homework. So there's one day where the two of them were sitting in the living room. The preschooler was coloring and eating her snack. The babysitter was doing her homework with the TV on. On the TV in the background, just kind of passively, the news was playing. Evidently in the area, there had been a string of break-ins, nothing to worry about, the cops were on the lookout, yada yada. And as the two of them were sitting in the living room, the house phone rings. And this is a rarity because at this time of the day, nobody ever calls. Not to mention the babysitter has a cell phone, and that's usually the best way to reach her when she's there at the house. So the babysitter gets up from what she's doing, she goes over to the phone, checks the caller ID, it's an unknown number, and so she decides to pick up on a whim. When she picks up, there's a voice on the line. It sounds like an older man. Before the babysitter can say anything, he says, make sure you check the doors. Now, this was automatically unsettling, and so the girl goes to the window the first thing to peek out to see if she can see anything. The second thing she does is go straight to the doors. There's about 5 of them downstairs, and so she goes all around to each door and she checks them. Thankfully, they're locked. She goes back over to the phone, picks up, and there's a dial tone. Nobody's on the other end. So she's creeped out a little bit, but she decides to go back into the living room. Doesn't think much about it. Later on, the preschooler's parents get there. The babysitter goes back to her house, and everything is fine after that. The next day rolls around, and again, like clockwork, the babysitter goes and grabs the preschooler. They walk home the half mile. They get into the house, and as they're sitting in the kitchen eating snacks, the phone rings again. Yet this time when the phone rings, the girl gets a shiver down her spine. There's something off about it, just automatically she can tell. But something tells her to go and pick it up. And much like she did the first time, as soon as she grabbed the phone off the receiver, again, it was on the house phone, an older man on the opposite line said, make sure you go and check the doors. So this time the girl is really freaking out. She ran straight to all 5 doors downstairs, made sure they were all locked. Thank goodness. And this time, much like the first time, she goes back over to the phone. There's nobody on the other end. So that evening when the preschooler's parents get home, she tells them about what's been happening about the 2 phone calls. And the parents are like, that's really unusual. I'm glad you checked the doors. We'll look into it. Would you like a ride home so you don't have to walk? The girl's like, no, I'm good. She heads out. And the next day rolls around, day number 3. Now, much like the previous day, the babysitter goes and grabs the preschooler and they walk home. They're sitting in the living room again. This time, the babysitter preemptively goes and checks all of the doors, and she's sitting in the living room with the preschooler. The preschooler is eating her snack, the babysitter is doing her homework, and they've got the TV on. Now, the babysitter is kind of nervous at this point because she's anticipating another creepy phone call. And as she's sitting there doing her homework, she glances up and notices that on the news, they say they caught the burglar that was breaking into people's homes. So this automatically sends a wave of relief over her, and she's feeling optimistic. So she gets up and she's about to make herself a snack, when all of a sudden, she gets a phone call. Now this time, she felt a pit in her stomach, and she couldn't figure out how that wave of relief was replaced so quickly by it. But, much like the other 2 times, she slowly but surely walks over to grab the house phone. And this time, much like the other 2 times, on the other end of the line, there was a man's voice that says, make sure you check the doors. Now again, unlike the other 2 days, the first thing the girl did when she got inside today was check the doors. So she went to each and every single door, and that's when she realized that one of them was in fact unlocked. So as she walked over to the door, she peeked out of the small window that was on it, and there, about 5 feet in front of her, a man dressed all in black with a weapon on his side. Had she not beat him to the door, he certainly would have gotten in through that entrance. So she quickly locked the door and called the cops on her cell phone. The second call the girl made was to the preschooler's parents. She told them what happened and told them to get home immediately. After that, she called her own. Now, luckily for all parties involved, the police got there quickly. They were also able to apprehend the man as well. Evidently, the man they picked up earlier, the alleged burglar, was in fact not the right one. It was a case of mistaken identity, and the man who was sitting in jail was not the one who was actually doing the robbing. And when the parents came in that afternoon, they waited until things had calmed down, and they pulled the babysitter to the side. The babysitter looked quizzically at them, because she's ready to go home. It's been a very traumatic day for her, but the parents asked her who was giving her the phone calls if she ever figured it out. The babysitter stated she had no clue who the phantom caller was, but she was grateful for whoever it was, because it's likely that he saved their lives. And this is when the preschooler's parents would tell her something that would make her skin crawl yet again that day. They told her that the phone lines had actually been disconnected months ago. In fact, they had called into their cable service because they had a bundle deal and asked about the phone call to see if they could track it, and that's when the cable company told them that their house phone line had been out of service for months by that point. So there was no way anybody could have been calling. Of course, it is entirely possible that somebody got the wrong number, and perhaps whoever this person was intended to warn their own loved ones about this impending danger, or just to give them a safety warning. On the flip side, I'm not entirely sure how you would receive a message on a phone line that's been disconnected for months.
Ex-husband's family tried to unalive me.
I watched that 2-part story, and the 6 reply to comment video, so you don't have to. That's Georgie, and she's telling us exactly why she left her ex-husband. They're both Nigerian. She's Igbo, and he's Yoruba. So after they got married in America, they flew out to Nigeria so they can have their wedding in Nigeria as well. So while she was out there, she was going to be doing shows, she was going to be doing interviews, she was also going to be running errands for the wedding. So she asked his family to get her a car. Now, they are very wealthy out there. They have dealerships, they have factories, they have 18-wheelers, multiple of them. Both the mother-in-law and the father-in-law both drive brand new luxury cars, and so she didn't think it was like too big of an ask. Now, when she arrived, she was very humbled. He has a big family. She was very, excited to meet them all. After waiting some time and not getting the car, she was starting to miss shows, interviews, opportunities, all of that. And she also noticed that the mother-in-law was like lying about her to the husband and saying things that weren't true, and so she was just like, what's going on? And they kept telling her like, no, you're Americanized, you're overreacting, like da-da-da-da. And she's just like, I think you guys call people Americanized or Westernized when we're not willing to do the disrespect or like let you play in our faces. No, I'm gonna call it out, is what she said. But at the time, she was like, maybe they're right, so she would let a lot of things slide. Eventually, they finally gave her like a 2010 RAV4, and she was like, perfect, I can get around places now. So one day she had a radio interview, and then she was also gonna go see some family, and so she gets in the car and she ends up getting in a car accident. So she's freaking out. She's on the side of the road. She's calling, her husband, the father-in-law, the mother-in-law, all trying to get in contact with them so they can help her out, and they're not answering. While she's on the side of the street, the military military actually shows up, and they tell her like, hey, it's really unsafe for you to be here, this is kidnapping season, like you got to figure out how to get out of here, right? So eventually the mechanic shows up. The mechanic told her there was no brake fluid, the brakes were cut, there was also no coolant, and there was a hole in the gas tank. He was like, I don't understand how this car was moving. So at this point she's crying, and she's like, I need to get in contact with someone. When she finally gets in contact with the mother-in-law, she asked her, did you get this car checked out before you handed it over to me? And the mother-in-law was like, oh yeah, we made sure it turned on. And so at this point she's like, if this was America, you guys would have been hit with attempted manslaughter. Georgie goes on to tell us that because she was already married in America, her husband would have been considered a widow. He still would have gotten his green card and all his paperwork even after her being unalive. She said not only her family but his family were basically telling her that she was overreacting and that she was just making too big of a deal out of this. It was just a car accident. She said that she felt like when she told them that their first attempt didn't work, they tried to double back and finish the job, right? And so she could see on WhatsApp that her mother-in-law was purposely ignoring her phone calls. I guess it shows you in the notifications. So she finally gets in contact with her husband, and he's basically telling her that she's overreacting, like she's doing too much. His family would have never done anything like that. This is just an accident. And she's just telling him like, I can't believe you're arguing with me right now, right? Eventually her father-in-law gets in contact with her, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, like what happened? And she tells him, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna send a tow truck, and I'm gonna send another car as well. The other car never arrives. The tow truck does, and when it does, it's just a regular pickup truck with rope tied to the back of it that was gonna pull her broke down car. And even the military people were looking at her like, this is your tow truck? And she's like, I guess so. And so she hops into the broke down car, her assistant, and her manager. Pickup is pulling them, and it's just like moving. It's scaring the hell out of her. She's just screaming her head off, right? Her manager is just trying to like steer the car and, you know, keep them safe. All of a sudden one of the ropes break. They get whipped almost off the bridge. Her manager finally is able to stop the car, and she's screaming, she's yelling, she's just like panicking, having a full-on breakdown, right? So she's like, I'm not getting back in that broke down car. So this time she gets back in the pickup, and she said the pickup was not good. Like it was kind of wild inside there, right? But she's like, I'd rather be in here. And her poor manager had to still stay in the broke down car and make sure that he steered it a little bit. The tow truck guy had jumped out and reattached the rope at this point. So now they're driving again, and unfortunately the rope breaks again, and the car gets whipped to the side again, and he almost gets flown off the road. Mind you, at this point Georgie has blocked her husband because he is completely siding with his family, and she has nothing to say to him. On the third attempt, with just one rope and driving very slowly, they managed to get back to where they needed to get to and drop off the car. She calls an Uber. She makes it to her interview. She calls another Uber when she's leaving the interview. I guess it's a lot of money, and again, it's dangerous to be on that highway. She gets back to Lagos. She leaves Nigeria at that point, and she never sees that family after that. Georgie said it was really sad for her not to receive help, not even from her own family, because they were too concerned with her moving forward with the marriage and marrying this wealthy family. She also said in another reply to comment video that maybe I was naive to think that like they would accept me because I have my own money and I'm successful, but in reality I'm a rapper. I didn't make my money through traditional ways that Nigerian parents would find, you know, appeasing. And so she was just like, maybe I was delusional in that fact, but I had my own. She said she wants her and her generation to be a part of the movement that ends tribalism, not only in America because it doesn't really exist here, but like very much so back in Nigeria, and just remind them all that they are one. Ultimately she's sharing the story because A, she does feel like the family could, if they wanted to, still harm her. So if anything happens to her, she wants people to know who could have done it. And then on top of that, she also wants women to take marriage off the pedestal and really realize that there's so much more to life than just being a mother and a wife. If those are things that you want, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's also a lot of other different things that you can do, and your value, your worth, your success, and how, you know, well you do in life does not depend on whether or not you become a mother and a wife. Georgie said it wasn't until she came back to America and went to therapy and spoke to a lawyer that she realized that it really was an attempted manslaughter on her life, and that if this was America, things would have played out a lot differently. And she is still in the process of getting a divorce. He refuses to sign. Either way, you guys tagged me in this event. I wanted to make sure I got it out to you guys. I appreciate you guys as always. Bye.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely...
Okay, so this situation happened within a 3-day time span. So I used to do home health care, and I had this one lady, and she was the sweetest can be. Like, she was one of my favorites, but she was 103. You couldn't tell she was 103 because she looked really good and she was still independent, but she really just needed someone to like be there with her and watch her to make sure nothing happened. So I was third shift. I did 7:30 to 7:30. I had about 3 to 4 days on, and then I had the rest of the days off. So like I said, this happened in a 3-day time span because by the 4th day she was unfortunately gone. So first night comes, and every time when I would get there, she would always have like a pillow and a blanket and the remote waiting for me, because she's like, you're going to be here all night. You might as well get comfortable, watch some TV, do what you got to do, which I did get comfortable, watch some TV. I did. So I'm in the living room watching TV. Now, mind you, off to the side, there were a set of stairs that led to the upstairs. But she had not been upstairs in the last, I think, like 10 years because she just could not do stairs anymore. So the upstairs was just really
not used. And her family didn't really come see her either, so no one had been in the upstairs in about 10 years. So as I'm sitting there watching TV, all of a sudden I literally hear footsteps, light footsteps, come down the stairs. And it happened real quick, but I heard the footsteps come down the stairs. So I quick look over, and I'm sitting there like, nah, I'm tripping. I'm tripping. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I ain't got no sleep. I really didn't get no sleep the night before, so I was like, I'm tripping. I'm just tripping. So about a good maybe 2 minutes later, I hear the footsteps going back up the stairs. Like, you know when you can hear from going up from going down. I heard the footsteps going back up the stairs. So at this point, I know I'm not tripping. I know for a fact I heard something. It's not because I'm late, because I'm tired. I really heard something. So I go and I check on, we'll call her Miss Mabel. So I go and I check on Miss Mabel, and she's sitting straight up in her bed, right? Staring at a corner in her room. And I'm like, Miss Mabel. And she did not snap out of it until I went over and I touched her shoulder. And she said, oh, what are you doing up? Or is everything okay? And I'm like, girl, are you okay? So I put her back to bed. And then the night passes, I leave, I come back the next night. So the next night comes, and this night I am exhausted. Like, I had just worked my second job earlier in the day. I didn't get a chance to take a nap, so I am exhausted because I had been up almost 24 freaking hours, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm dozing off on the couch, and all of a sudden I hear her talking. But not like as in like just saying, oh, just having a little conversation with herself. No, she's literally, everything she's saying is a response to something. Like, she's having a conversation with somebody. So after a little while, I go in the room and I ask, I'm like, hey, Miss Mabel, like, what's going on? You okay? Like, who are you talking to? This lady looks at me with the biggest smile on her face. And she said, oh, I'm just talking to the lovely lady that's been coming to see me for the past couple nights. So you know what immediately popped in my head? What fucking lady? Ain't no lady in here. So I'm like, oh, okay, girl, okay, you know. I'm like, maybe we should get you back to bed. So I put her back to bed, and that night passes, and I go home. Third night comes. So the third night comes, and this is where shit, like, just really starts to just amp up. So I'm sitting on the couch in the living room, minding my business, right? And all of a sudden, I hear footsteps come back down those stairs, okay? And this time, I hear them go into the kitchen. Mind you, the kitchen is right behind me. So I'm frozen in fear. I'm not looking behind me at all. I'm sitting there acting like I didn't hear it. I don't know what the fuck is going on. So after about 5 minutes of me sitting there frozen in fear and in sweat, Miss Mabel comes around the corner. Now, mind you, in the living room, she had this special chair that she loved to take naps in, or she loved to just come and sleep in the middle of the night when she couldn't, just sleep in her bed. So she comes in and she's like, you know what? I think I'm going to just spend the rest of the night in here with you. And I said, why, Miss Mabel? Is everything okay? That's fine, but are you okay? This woman looks at me, and she goes, the people in my room won't stop talking to me. Hello? So at this point, I'm terrified, but I don't want her to know that I'm terrified and that I'm shitting my pants right now, because I'm supposed to be there to protect you, right? Right. So I finally get her to go back to sleep so I can be in fear by myself. So I jet out the door the next day. I was so glad to see the day nurse come, because I was like, girl, I gotta fucking go. And literally, probably around like 5 or 6 o'clock that night, I got a call saying I don't have to come in because she passed away. And I feel like whatever was going on in that house, or whoever the fuck was going through the house or running through the house or messing with her in the middle of the night, I really feel like they were preparing her to go. Looking back on it, I really feel like they was. But I don't know. I've never experienced anything else like that ever again. I hope that I never do, because that was some freaky shit. But yeah.
And you can't say that I didn't warn you. I tried to tell you that these stories were next level. Whether it was going to be cursed love, eerie phone calls, or spirits walking the halls. I think each one of these stories had a unique way of reminding us that the spiritual realm has an interesting way of getting our attention, and just how real things can get spiritually when we're not paying attention. Or better yet, when we are. If you've ever had a paranormal experience, or if one of these stories gave you some type of deja vu or feeling of reminiscence, leave it down in the comments. I'm curious to see what your experience was like. Because you know your girl, she loves to hear the tea. I always got a cup and I'm ready. So y'all make sure that y'all come and spill. And as always, make sure that you don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for any more spooky stories like this, because I definitely will be back for more. So with that being said, my name is Luna. This is the Mystic Muse. Make sure that you drink your water, mind your business, and stay pretty protected. And as always, Luna loves you.